Guys, welcome back to my channel. So, ISFP, dress your inferior TE. What does that mean? ISFPs, you love looking creative, but at the same time, you crave competence. Deep down inside, you want people to take you seriously, but for some reason, you have this inner conflict of being who you are and who you should be, and therefore, you often find yourself in the battle with yourself that I should be authentic, people should love me and appreciate me for who I am, but at the same time, you also realize that when you're on that side of thinking, it makes you feel like people are not taking you seriously. And so people misunderstand your intent of being authentic, or they just totally misread you as a whole. This video is dedicated to talk about the inferior function of ISFPs. How are they going to use it to project the image that would then allow people to see that they are supposed to be respected, that they are competent, that they are reliable. So I've done a couple of videos like this, but for other MBTI types. And so if you're interested, check out the playlist about developing your style using MBTI, and you should be able to find your personality type if I've already filmed and published it. And so this is for the ISFPs. So ISFPs, your style isn't the problem. The only issue is if your outfit or your personal style doesn't look intentional and organized, people would assume that your work isn't either. So a little bit of background on ISFP's cognitive function is that because they are led by introverted feeling, which means that they're all about their authenticity, their moral values, so they are very attuned to their own values and feelings. And therefore, when something feels off, they normally don't go for it. And that's why they are nicknamed the artisan or the artist, because if you look at any musician, any painter, or anyone that is it's known in their artistic field or is an expert in arts, you will see that they are very attuned and they stand by their values and their principle as an artist very strongly. But it also means that as much as people love them, they may not necessarily understand them, and also there will be a group of people who just purely don't understand them and think that they are not normal. And therefore, the not normal thing is what I want to address, because the not normal thing is because in the SDJ society, where it's all about sensing, thinking, judging, where it's all your guardian and your sentinel, everybody should behave and follow systems and structure in a certain way. There isn't really a way for you to measure people who are creative, because creative people fall out of the framework, and therefore either you love them, you are inspired by them because they bring novelty, or you just can't stand them. You cannot understand why they are the way they are, and they just don't act reliable and competent like everybody else, because there is a framework that determines what competence is. And again, ISFPs normally don't fall within that framework. So I teach fashion psychology and style semiotics. Basically, I help people understand their personality and also creating the image that helps them to bring out the best of their personality, or even to emulate different personalities. All of this is to help people to decode the signals that they have from their clothing styles. So I'm not just a regular personal shopper or personal stylist, but another passion and deep obsession of mine is psychology, and therefore I try to combine both fashion and psychology, because it helped me a lot in the kind of things that I've achieved in my life, but it also helped a lot of the people that I've coached and that I've worked with not just feel confident, but feel congruent and feel like they are in control on how people will perceive them. Okay, going back to it. So, ISFPs often have taste, and therefore they can look effortlessly good, because it's like an artist, right? They kind of know, I'm going to add a dash of red, I'm going to add a dash of green, and I'm going to put it all together, and then it's going to give this vibe. It's very much a feeling that they get at that moment that it works. And so when you put an ISFP in a professional setting, they really look out of place. They might have gut sensing or a certain feeling about how things should be. So when they put out that opinion, it appears very subjective and non-concrete and no substance, and therefore people don't really see them as competent, even though they can actually make a lot of sense on where it's coming from. Is not a bad thing, but FI without the use of rational, FI without the use of logic or the use of research, the use of balancing it with extroverted thinking, that's when FI can look like it's not meant to be taken seriously. So I've seen a few ISFPs in my life and also do some research online. You can see that ISFPs are just stereotypical, dressing like the artist. They look very fashionable. It's their own individualistic way. I think individuality is that key word. They have to look different. They don't want to look like everybody else. It's like they're allergic to it. They're very creative, but they're never structured. Today they will be wearing this style. The next day they're wearing a different style. Maybe not as dramatic as ESFPs, but like ISFPs, they still have their own style that they rely on, but they're also open to experimenting, and therefore they can look like their style is not very consistent. But it also means that if they're working in an arts industry or in an industry where creativity is being appreciated, of course then they will shine. But even so, I'm kind of changing my mind recently about how people are perceived in the world of fashion. I know that being able to be versatile and dressing in different style can appear like a good thing, but the more and more I got into this, even looking at the psychological aspect, I feel that when you are too inconsistent with your style, with the aim of wanting to be creative, fresh, it kind of shows that you are not very confident with your current style. You need to change. But I'm also not a fan of people who are so stuck to that style that they don't change at all. So there's a fine line. There is a nice balance there, like you have to be intentional of why you wear the way you wear, and it's not just feeling based all the time. The other one is fear or comfort based, where probably the SI users, ISTJ, ISFJ, they will always wear the same thing over and over again because they don't update themselves with what is going on with the world, the trends, social intelligence. Therefore, they look like they're always stuck in the past, and then they look very stubborn and rigid. And the other end of the spectrum are people who are too creative, that they will explore every trend under the sun, and then it makes you feel like you do not know who they are. So it's like you are talented, but you're not scalable because you're not reliable. So most of the advice that is given to ISFPs, I'm sure if you look at all the MBTI style mood boards out there, is ISFPs, be authentic, be yourself, be artistic, and go for what you feel is right. As much as that's a strength, if you overuse it, it can become a weakness. Because if you're an ISFP with certain goals in life that you need to fit into the corporate framework, where you want a certain amount of money in your bank, you want a certain amount of salary, you want respect from a group of people, you want that kind of title in this kind of environment, you cannot neglect your inferior function, which is TE, because your untapped potential is that you can be an ENTJ if you want to. ENTJ is the exact opposite of ISFP. It's just like ENTJs who are too success focused, who do not care about their own moral values and their feeling. Their untapped potential is the artist that they can be when they are free from trying to be respected all the time and trying to be successful all the time. They have that creative side to them if they want to go for it. So now, the advice back to ISFP is that your untapped potential lies in how you are dealing with your extroverted thinking, your TE, because this is your greatest insecurity and also your fear. So what does this mean is extroverted thinking is having a clear outcome, knowing what works, and seeing how everybody else is doing it and what is the thing that makes it work. It is having a very determined mindset that this is the outcome that I'm going to get and these are the steps that I'm going to do to get there, which is not always the favorite thing of ISFPs. Again, are artists. They go with the flow, right? If they don't feel like doing something, they just don't do it. So now this is the problem, right? When you're in a world where you are weak in extroverted thinking, where you need to be disciplined, you need to focus on your goals, you need to do the things that you don't feel like doing in order to get your goals, that is your weakness. So ISFPs, I've seen where they have certain goals in their life, but they still choose to dress the way that they dress, sound the way that they sound, and then they don't do anything to flex or to adapt to the situation. And they have goals of, like, for example, wanting to be a manager, wanting more leadership roles, but they refuse to get into that side of them that actually exists, and they get repelled by it, thinking that this is like, oh, but that's not me, you know, like, I'm not a serious person, I'm not. But then they crave respect and they care what people think of them, because that's what extroverted thinking is that you're actually insecure about what people think of you, and that's why your reputation matters. And so that's the hidden conflict that they have with themselves. It's that they want to be themselves, they look like themselves, and then they don't blend in at the same time. And then when people don't take them seriously, right, they kind of hate people for it. ISFPs, maybe let me know what is your experience in a working place where you usually look very individualistic, and then you walk into the room, you kind of ask yourself, like, do I even belong here? You know, because I don't share the same mindset as them, and everybody else is just speaking the same language, and I can't seem to grasp it. Yeah. But this video is more about dressing the part that makes you feel like you've gotten your extroverted thinking in control. So I'm not going to go deep into the part where it talks a lot about your self-development, so that can be a separate video on how ISFPs can conquer their extroverted thinking and tap into their potential ENTJ self. So when you see people doing that, you kind of like, I don't want to be that. But the reality is you do need to be there in order to get what you want. And then you resist any rules that are rigid, like it has to be done in this specific way. You just can't. You obviously avoid corporate aesthetics. So anytime somebody tells you a white shirt makes you look competent, maybe you do go for the white shirt, but you still pair it with something that looks totally not corporate or professional, that is still individualistically you. So in a way, you are taking the competence out of what the white shirt can do. So again, because you want your FI there so bad, it kind of not putting you in a position where people can respect you or think you're competent because you don't follow rules. You feel exposed when you dress too sharp or too intellectual because you know that it's going against your FI. And this is one of the most common, inferior extroverted thinking. I'm also talking about INFPs, by the way, because they have the same inferior functions. It's that it kind of manifests slightly differently for ISFP and INFP. So for ISFP, one of the things is you procrastinate decisions until the very last minute. You just love procrastinating. So your default personal style or dressing preference would be silhouette that you love, that is unique to you. Maybe you feel like it has to be soft. You don't want to look like you try too hard, so that's something that you go for. You love casual pieces and you will try to make it a little bit more creative, of course. And the small little artistic touches with your accessories, like it has to be a bit different, you know, like it cannot be too conceptual where everything else looks like it's thematic. You kind of want to go against it because you know that deep down inside you're an artist, you can pull it off. Well, nothing wrong with that, again, if you're in the right environment. But if you have goals of wanting to look like a person with clarity, with structure, with leadership readiness, then you really have to think twice about how is your style helping you to create that image or the impression that you want people to take from you. The moment that people read your outfit as not serious, not following the rules, is where you're going to put a lot of effort trying to convince people because you often feel like people don't understand you or underestimate you. ISFPs don't lack professionalism. They can be really one of those people that once they are passionate, they can really do the things that they are set out to do and achieve what they want. But if they're constantly facing this situation where people are undermining them, it's just not helping them to be in the right position or even to get the opportunities that they want. So they don't lack professionalism, they are just under signaling their competence. So let's talk about some patterns that ISFP showcase when they have inferior extroverted thinking. How does it look like on their outfit? So this is something for you ISFPs to kind of reflect, like, is this your current dressing? And then what you can do to improve it if you have the image goal of wanting to look like you have mastered your extroverted thinking. So pattern number 1, you have very beautiful but unfinished look. So it's like you look stylish, you look like you are put together, but something about it that it's not complete. Because, example, you decide to wear everything very polished at the start, but then you decide, you know what, I'm going to do this very polished suit look that is loose, right? I'm going to wear it with like open toe sandals. Okay, sure, people usually will wear it with closed toes, and then you're like, I don't want to look like everybody else because that's just boring. Understand. But then you are kind of challenging the fashion convention or the rules of dressing to impress or dressing for success, right? That it kind of makes people think that you are just rebelling for the sake of rebelling, and that there is no final form or there's no completion to your look. It always looks like it's unfinished. It could also be your bag doesn't match your overall outfit because you think it's individualistic. It could also be that maybe you want to look chill all the time and the whole outfit is just like that soft head to toe vibe that really puts you in a position where you look more relaxed than competent, or rather being reliable or structured. I don't ever have not even seen ISFPs who have a default dressing mode of looking sharp, tailored, polished, unless they are very aware of their image goals. And even so, when an ISFP needs to wear something like that, always the most uncomfortable because they know that it doesn't go with their original values. They're just putting out something to impress another person. So normally they don't last very long in those kind of outfits, even though the ENTJ or the extroverted thinking is part of them. They just fail to be aware and to like embrace it. Pattern number 2, they normally go for comfort first. So I think if ISFPs who are not in the fashion industry or anything that is got to do with advertising, marketing, or anything that requires them to dress up, they will just be casual all the way. And this will apply for INFPs as well, but it's just that INFPs may be a little bit more difficult or worse because they have extroverted sensing trickster, which means that they're unaware about how they come off to other people. For ISFPs, there's a little bit of hope because they have extroverted sensing second function, which is their parent function. So they are kind of, in a way, very particular. They know that they should do this. They should be more aware of color coordination. They should be more aware of like mixing texture, eye for detail. So they will come off more stylish and casual compared to INFPs because of that trickster function or that parent function that ISFPs have. Pattern number 3, let's say ISFP is working in a corporate environment and everybody else has a certain color palette, you know, dark colors, very corporate, let's just put it that way, right? Let's say this is an ISFP working in a banking industry. I know nowadays it's very much sad to see that financial advisors, consultants, they can go so casual. It's kind of shocking. It's not like what you will see, let's say, if you watch the Suits, Harvey Specter, like they're kind of dressed for success, just doesn't really exist anymore. But there are some industry or some position that still put very high value on the status that they put out on based on what they wear. Even if they're wearing something casual, it will still look very put together and polished. So for ISFPs, they have this thing of the anti-uniform. But the anti-uniform means that they do not want to follow. If there's a dress code in the company, they're going to be like, I'm going to stand out. I'm going to make something different. I do not want to wear what everybody is wearing. I don't want to be consistent. I don't want to be predictable. ISFPs, if your look changes wildly all the time, your trust score will keep resetting itself. It means that people will constantly be thinking about, is this person reliable? Can I trust this person? Because you're like a chameleon. Again, this is just perception gaps based on the psychology of dress, based on how society perceives people's outfit and what kind of signals, semiotics are perceived to be more competent or less competent. There's a place and time to look approachable, to look fun, quirky. So this video is really for ISFPs who are struggling to get people to take them seriously, or they are working in an environment where they're trying to climb the corporate ladder and they are not really getting what they want. And I talk about enclosed connection all the time. ISFPs, you can feel a certain way, and when you dress like it, you make yourself feel that even more. And so the whole concept of enclosed connection is that you dress how you want to feel. So when you wear a certain color or you wear a certain outfit, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you will unconsciously or subconsciously think that you are that way. So if you are just emphasizing what you feel is genuine to you, which is your FI, which is to look artistic, casual, unpredictable, but you're not getting what you want, then you really have to seriously evaluate where you are in life and what are you doing to get there. So let's talk very quickly about what can ISFPs do to kind of slightly improve their image or their dressing sense without taking away their authenticity. So introduce some structure to your outfit, which is going to be great, because if you're mostly a casual person, then your silhouette, the shape of your outfit are usually loose, soft, a lot of curves, rather than having tailored structure, linear lines, anything that makes you look more sleek and sharp. So having something slightly more structured is going to already add a bit of respect and competence to your outfit. It doesn't have to be an outfit. I think for ISFP's case, I would say that you are naturally a little bit more stylish than everybody else, but maybe your bag and your shoes is something that you really have to think about. That is it giving me competence? Is it adding strength to my outfit rather than just being artistic and creative? Number two, because they have extroverted sensing as their parent function, they're particular with certain texture, fabrication, color. I would say if you're ISFPs that wear a lot of bold colors, you might want to tone that down and really focus on having 80-90% of a color palette that is calm, neutral, that if you do match it with something that is creative, like your accessories or your shoes or your bags, it is still very much put together. It's still something that grounds you. So that's something that I think ISFP should pay attention to. It's not to focus so much on accent color, like your favorite color. Like you get excited with trend colors. Oh, now it's green, the next thing is yellow, and then there's pink. You will try to incorporate it, but you don't have enough neutral color palette that feels calm. So what kind of color palette that exudes calmness would be, instead of black, because black, again, can be too strong, and it will make you look like you're trying too hard, would be ivory, cream, khaki, beige, olive green, a bit muted, not colors that are very deep and rich, rather it's colors that are a little bit more medium tone, has that gray undertone to it, so it adds the competence without trying too hard, like as if you're wearing navy pinstripe. That will be you trying too hard, and that's not the point. And then maybe instead of matching too many colors, sometimes even neutral colors that you keep, maybe you have mixing different neutral colors together. Maybe you should just do all monotone, the same color. The whole outfit is same color, but then you play with texture. You can mix suede with leather, you can mix knit with something that is more matte. You can mix something that is shine with more matte. So you play with texture while keeping your color palette very calm and it's monotone, which is that singular color. That already can add a lot of sophistication and refinement to your outfit. Yeah, I think ISFPs, the last tip that I can give you that is based on my observation is you guys just overdo your trying so hard to be individualistic mix and match, which means that your outfit is usually offbeat. There's something off with it, like it's not meant to be matched with like socks, but you do the socks because you think that it makes you unique. It's like, I think that's the breaking point of your outfit. Again, this is very context based. If you're ISFP working in an environment where people appreciate your fashionability, they appreciate your individualistic style, then of course go. If it helps you with your role where you do need to appear more creative than competent, I understand. But if you start facing issues where people don't take your ideas seriously, people are always challenging you, people misunderstand you, they don't take your opinion seriously, that's the time that you really look at yourself and ask, do I have any form of structure on my outfit? It's my accessories making me look like I'm not very serious. These are the small things that maybe you can think about. And so, because FI can change from time to time, but FI is also used healthily with extroverted thinking, which is your inferior function and your strength. When it's balanced, when you're very aware of both of it, you will know that yes, you can want to feel authentic and you want to express your authentic self in this way, but the healthy extroverted thinking function would be focusing on, okay, yes, I will not neglect my authenticity, but how can I also balance myself or have a plan so that people take me seriously? So I know what works, but I also know what I value. If you're unaware of this too, and you go back and forth all the time, you don't find a balance, that's when you kind of feel a lot of frustration because, again, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, this is the kind of battle that you have in your head where you're trying to strive for authenticity, but at the same time you want validation and you want other people to respect you. I think Lady Gaga is very good example, although she's not ISFP, but she's an ENTJ. Maybe this is going to inspire you. She's an ENTJ that has tapped into her subconscious ISFP. So ENTJ, because she is very much thinking about what works, not giving up on her plans, what she have envisioned for herself, her music career. And she is the person that she is today because of her fearlessness, her determination, and wanting to achieve the outcome and not giving up. So she has never strayed far from what she set out to do, and therefore she's able to achieve that. And that is a very ENTJ thing because they're all about what works, the efficient way, the fastest way, whatever I'm going to do in order for me to get there, they will, right? Very disciplined. They are visionaries. They will sell their idea to everybody else and then get the whole world to be influenced by them. You can see her creative side, the flow of her artistry, because she has tapped into her FI, her introverted feeling. So you can see in interviews where she talks about her vision, how she really overcome her struggles in the beginning part of her career where people don't believe her. She was dabbling between her extroverted thinking and introverted feeling, so much so that she doesn't forget that she needs her artistic side in order for people to be inspired by her or for people to see what she sees. So she's able to use both her extroverted thinking and her introverted feeling in such a manner that she is an artist. She is the creative person, and everybody else would think that she is an ISFP because she looks very creative in her dressing sense, in her music. But with her achievement, starting her makeup line, all the other things that she's doing on the side in order to have the kind of wealth that she has today, her achievement today, is not for the fact of her FI. It is also because of her extroverted thinking. So ISFP, I think Rihanna is ISFP, if I'm not mistaken. I have to double check this from C.S. Joseph when he typed all the famous celebrities. I think Rihanna is an ISFP. Successful, but also being true to her style. But again, you cannot really use ISFP artists as an example. If you have certain goals in life, unless you are ISFP trying to be a celebrity or an artist, then I understand so. I think you get my point of the video is that it takes time for each MBTI type to work on their inferior function. In this case, for ISFP, because extroverted thinking is your fear and your insecurities, you can think about how your image, how it's being presented to the outside. Is it more of you just using your introverted feeling to showcase who you are? Or can you also tap into your extroverted thinking so that you kind of fake it until you make it? I know that some people are very against this idea of faking until you make it because it's not real. But If you're already insecure about your own competence and you don't dress like you are seeking competence, or at least put you in a position where you can be perceived as competent, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to get. Anyways, guys, I hope that this helps the ISFPs out there, whoever that's watching this video. If you guys could help me share, like, comment, it will really help me to continue to do all these free videos for you guys. I genuinely love sharing my insights and helping each MBTI to unlock their potential, because I believe that each and every one of us have that potential that is waiting to be unlocked. And what is life if you are not having that purpose to be your very best self? I hope that you will subscribe to me if you have not already, because I do try to put out videos like this on a weekly basis. I'm already much more frequent than I was before. And do follow me on TikTok too if you prefer bite-sized version. These are all more long-form videos for you to listen in the background as you are doing your work, or you are doing your housework, or doing other things, or going for a walk. I hope that this helps you. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.